This is the Raiders on the Record podcast. Today, we feature Lauren Jenkins. Lauren Jenkins is a junior at Hastings High School and will be a 2024 Raider graduate. During her time at Hastings High School, she has participated in swimming and softball. In swimming, she is a 5-time letter winner, 5-time all-conference recipient, all-state honorable mention in the 200-meter free relay, and led her team to 5 conference championships. In softball, she's a 5-time letter winner and named all-section during her 9th and 10th grade year. Lauren gives a great interview where she talks about the role family has played in her sports life. Here we are with Lauren Jenkins. Lauren, we always start at the beginning of someone's life. So let's hear about your life growing up. Let's hear about any brothers, your sisters, mom, dad. Did you always live in Hastings? Did you guys eventually move to Hastings? So once again, let's hear about your life growing up.
So I started out in Alaska. I was born there, and then I lived there till I was 2. And then from there, we moved to McMinnville, Oregon, and I was there till I was 7. Then in 2nd grade is when I came to Hastings, and that's where I've been ever since, obviously. And I have one sister, Kendall. She's older than me, 2 years. And then my mom was born and raised in Stewartville, Minnesota, up by Rochester. And then my dad grew up in Alaska in Fairbanks.
Wonderful. How'd your parents meet then?
They both went to college in Montana.
Okay, for sure. And then eventually went up to Alaska and then came eventually down here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Since you came here a little later in elementary school, maybe there's some teachers that had a really big impact on you there too. So let's hear about the schools you attended here in Hastings. And if there's any teachers, we don't have to go through every single grade, but if there's any teachers from each school that had a really big impact on you, let's hear about those teachers.
So I went to Pinecrest Elementary School, and Miss Knoll, I was in her 3rd and 4th grade class. We had the same class for both years. And still to this day, she still reaches out, and she's just someone that's like always cared for me and had, we just had like a little special like relationship. And then now, or at the middle school, Mr. Gardell.
Okay.
Mr. Gardell.
That's
yes. Right. Mr. Gardell was always super fun. For some reason, he called me Rubber Ducky. I just remember that. I don't remember why. And then now the high school, I have to say Corkish. And yeah.
Perfect. The last thing we always like hearing about with background info is the sports you played growing up. So typically with someone like you, we stop maybe around 9th grade or when you started playing at a JV level. So once again, let's hear about the sports you played growing up.
So I've been swimming ever since I was 6 years old. And I've also done softball since I was about 7 years old. And I still do both right now. I do only high school swim, and then I do club and high school softball.
Okay. Let's go through your high school career here, and we'll start with the earliest grade that you played at high school level. So either JV or varsity. We also like hearing about individual accomplishments. So if you're a captain of the team, all conference awards, all state, all section, things of that nature, and then any team awards as well. So if you guys won a conference title, won a section title, things of that nature. So let's hear about your high school career, and we can start the earliest year that you started playing at a JV or varsity level.
So for swimming, I was brought up to varsity in my 7th grade year. I've been doing that ever since. And 7th grade through 11th grade, I was all conference, and we just got all state all state honorable mention for our relay that made it to state, and that was the 200 free relay. And then for softball, I was also brought up in 7th grade, and I lettered in 7th grade, and then I got all section in 9th grade and 10th grade, I think. And then for swimming, we've also been all conference, we've won all conference all years that I've been swimming. So that's pretty cool.
Perfect. One thing we always like hearing about is being a Raider athlete and why it's so important to represent Hastings. So you talked about being here in Hastings, multiple sports. Why do you think it's important to represent a town like Hastings?
A town like Hastings is very like as I can tell, it's very tight knit, and a bunch of people always just come to like support everything, especially with like football games, for instance. There's like literally feels like the whole town is there. And for like softball and swimming, when we had like the little girls watch us, I just think it's super cool to play for something like small, but like make it seem bigger in their eyes. And yeah.
You've gotten multiple awards here, all conference, all state, honorable mention, things of that nature. What's been your favorite moment so far as a Raider athlete?
So we started this last year, and it's called Hastings Softball Day. And it starts with like 10U. So 10U has a game early in the morning, then 12U, 14U, 16U, then it goes JV varsity. And last year for our varsity game, it was late at night, and it quite literally felt like the whole town was there, to us at least. All the little girls' teams were there, and it was just super fun. Like when anybody would get a hit, you can just hear the little girls screaming, going crazy, and it was really cute, and that was really fun.
Yeah, no, my daughter's on the 10U softball team right now, so that's something that she's been looking forward to for the last couple of weeks. So she's super excited about that.
Yeah.
So, how long has that been going on for?
They just started it last year.
Okay,
So
is that something that maybe you wish maybe started a little bit earlier, or maybe when you were growing up, if something like that was in town, do you think you maybe would have been a little more invested with maybe the high school softball players or the high school softball team as well?
yeah, definitely. If I would have seen that and like when I was in 10U, I would have like thinking that they were like professional athletes and got me really excited. But yeah, it's really cool and it's super fun. So yeah.
Right on. Anything with the relationships that you've been making with the younger softball players too, is that you feel like it's really building a better culture here with the softball program doing this softball day?
Yeah, for sure. I have one of my neighbors actually. She's a softball player, and she was there, and she was just sitting right by our dugout, and it was very cute. And she gets all my little hand-me-down equipment, and it's super cute. But yeah.
For sure. You talked about your sister earlier too. What was it like playing with your big sister when it comes to softball? And you swam with her too. So what was it like competing with your sister on the same teams?
Me and Kendall are very like competitive in like a friendly way almost. If I'm like down on myself or not doing good, she always like silently pushes me to do better. She doesn't like bicker at me or do like anything to get in my head or anything. She just silently pushes me to like and gets me like to know like what I can do versus what I haven't been doing. And she's just always been one that looks out for me and just like hopes that I do better and like puts her like success and just tries to give it to me in a way, just like give her all the tips that I can get. But yeah, she's been a very, very like key part of my athletic career.
Was there already like competitions going on to see who could do better at games, or maybe like a silent competition in your mind?
Oh,
You're always kind of keeping tab of what's going on with that too.
definitely. Yes, there's definitely that. We last year, or not last year, last year we had like a home run competition kind of. There was a couple games where she would hit a home run and then I would hit a home run right after her. And we just always like kind of be going back and forth in that way. But if it was ever like in a negative way, it was never like competition almost. I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely always that competition there. We just don't always acknowledge it. But yeah.
Awesome. Another thing we always like hearing about is success and how someone defines success. So this could be maybe a general term for how you define success when it comes to sports for you. Maybe you have a different definition for swimming versus softball. So what do you think your definition of success is when it comes to sports?
I would say for both sports, success to me is kind of just like setting myself a goal almost and then achieving it. So like every year before swimming, we write down like our goal times for our certain events that we want to do. And if I like achieve that goal or if I think that I've improved, I'll define that as success. And softball, I'll do the same thing. If I like say get a certain batting average or if I just feel like I've like grown myself as a player mentally or physically, then I'll just define that as success.
Perfect. Next couple questions. I always say that they're super impossible to answer. So if you could come up with someone for each of them, that'd be great. Or if you want to come up with a couple people, and that'd be awesome too. So the first one we always start off with is the best coach. So once again, you played multiple sports and you've played sports your whole life. So if If you want to come up with a couple people per sport or a couple people throughout your life, that'd be great. So who do you think one of the best coaches is that you've played for?
For swimming, Kim Olson. She was always one to push me to like my absolute farthest that I could. She really taught me like the importance of hard work and like what it can get you in the moment. Like it was very hard and like mentally challenging, but then when you see like what you've achieved at the end of the season, you kind of see like why she does it. So she's kind of just taught me about work ethic and like grit. Grit was her big thing actually. It was on all of our t-shirts. And then for softball, Bikema, actually, he's always been one that like he may not like push me like with words, but like just his like presence, he almost like silently like he silently pushes me in a way. Like he always like has like faith in me, and he always like knows like my limits of where he can push me, and he just always like, for instance, he'll just crush a ground ball at me out of nowhere. And like I'll ask him, I was like, what was that for? And he's like, well, he's just like, well, I know you can do it. And like he just always like silently pushes me in a way just because he knows like what my capabilities are and just hopes to push me even further.
Perfect. The next one, once again, is our teammate now. Maybe the impossible question again, picking a best teammate. So you've talked about your sister. I don't know if you want to pick her for the best teammate, but you could pick someone else too. And if you want to talk about your sister, maybe just a little bit more about her too. So let you define what a best teammate is in your life. But who do you think that best teammate is that you've played with?
It's definitely Kendall again. I don't know, she's just always been there for me, and it's kind of hard not to pick her. Like we've gone through so much, and I've always like worked so hard at it. Like, well, in the summer, we'll always just go out and hit balls into the field and whatnot. But she's just always been there for me. So
Awesome. The next one I always like hearing about is a particular opponent or team that you always like playing against. I feel like, especially when I interview the alumni, it's always changes throughout the years and it changes from team to team. So, once again, who's an opponent that you always look forward to playing every single year? You circle it on the calendar, and it's someone that you feel like always brings the best out in you.
So for swimming, it's definitely Farmington. They used to be in our section, but they're not anymore. But we'll still just go against them because they've always been like head-to-head competition. It's always super close. Like it'll come down to the last relay. And that's just like where it really pushes you like mentally and physically, not just physically. And it's always super close. And like you have to be on your A game if you want to win that. And it just really pushes you. And then for softball, I feel like it's changed every year too, but this year for me, I would say it's Tartan. There's a bunch of club girls that are on my team that are on that team. I think there's like 6 of them. So that's always, it's just a competitive in like a friendly way almost, but yeah, I'd definitely say Tartan for softball.
Awesome. Last couple questions here then before we get going. We always like hearing about people's improvement process as well. So it seems like every single year, from 7th grade in swimming all the way to 11th grade, and same thing with softball, 7th grade to 11th grade, you've been making improvements from year after year. So talk about your improvement process. What kind of goes into that? Is it a lot of club stuff? Is it lifting in the off season? Once again, talking about your improvement process, what that looks like.
Yeah, so last summer I started up a program called ETS Performance, and I do that based out of Rosemount. And there they train you based on your sports. So they'll train me specifically for swimming and specifically for softball. And that has helped me like a lot actually. They really based me or tried to work on me with my speed and like agility. So I've been working on that, and I did that throughout the winter too when I didn't have a sport going on. And then I also do training with the club for magic. We always go to Hamlin or Concordia and have little clinics of hitting and fielding to just keep ourselves in softball.
Great. Last couple questions, then we always end with advice for parents, coaches, and student athletes. So first group that we look at is parents and coaches. So thinking about all your experience so far at the high school level, playing softball and swimming, if you had to give parents and coaches just a few pieces of advice, what do you think it would be?
Definitely just to be always supportive. If they have like a really hard game, really hard meet, just always be there for them and be supportive. But you also have to give them space to push them. If they're like in a bad space, you just like have to push them as hard as they can, but also be supportive in the same way.
Awesome. Last one then. I think this is it's really good for you thinking about that softball day here in Hastings. Think about those younger student athletes, those girls that are coming to softball game and watching you play. If you had to give them a couple pieces of advice, what do you think it would be?
Definitely just to always keep it fun. I feel like if you don't let it be fun for yourself anymore, you'll just let it like drain out of you. So you have to keep it fun. And then also to always have your teammates' backs. They're always going to be there for you if you're always there for them. And if you have their support, you'll always have someone to lean back on, which is super like warming almost, like just to know that someone's always there for you. And yeah, just to make sure that you always keep it fun.
Awesome. Lauren, that's all the questions I got for you tonight. The last thing we always do is just turn the microphone over to our guest. So anything else you want to get off your chest, any questions I forgot to ask it, you can go for it. Any shout outs you want to give, like I said, the microphone is yours and you can go for it.
I'll definitely shout out John, Tegland, and then Kendall. I'll definitely give her a shout out.
Perfect. Thanks, Lauren.
Yes, thank you.